powerful imagery and sounds of offshore powerboating at its best. This Sunday, the largest fleet of Class 1 boats such as this arrive on our shores for Britain's most prestigious offshore powerboat race, the Cowes Torquay Classic. Sky Sports will be running right alongside Britain's best hope for honours, the giant Cougar Lamborghini of Richard Carr from Poole. We spoke to him at this last weekend's Needles race. Richard, we're obviously here in Poole for the Needles race. Can you tell us why this race is particularly important for you?
Well, this is the last of the 3 trial races for this boat before we do the international race in Cowes, then Guernsey, and then go to the Worlds in Trieste. And basically it's a new boat, and we wanted to test it on a national races, really to iron out any problems if there are any. So far, the first 2 races we've run, we've won with considerable distance in front of the person behind us, and I'm expecting to do the same again today.
Now, obviously this is a very serious campaign you're running here. Can you tell us a little bit about it and about the boat?
Well, the boat is a 40-foot Cougar catamaran. It's been built as an all-round boat rather than a sprint boat. A lot of people have tended to go for high speeds all the time in powerboat racing, which isn't what wins races. Reliability and relatively high speed wins it, and a boat that can cope with all types of different sea. Now, today it's probably going to be a little calm for this boat, but I mean, most races invariably are rougher than people like to think they're going to be, and this boat will cope with that sort of thing. I mean, it's powered by 2-valve Lamborghini engines. It's very, very simple sort of setup. We haven't gone for anything different or anything special. We haven't used, like a lot of people have gone for composite fibres now, we've used basic aluminium, basic proven drive systems, and I think it's keep it simple, and it seems to be proving the successful formula.
Now, obviously this is a very homebred boat, isn't it?
Well, yes, the boat is built in Southampton. The engines are Italian, the drivetrain is American, all the team are English, and I think it's probably the first serious all-English contender in international or European racing since probably the mid-1970s.
Obviously, to prepare a boat to take on the sort of world's best, it's quite involved, and it obviously looks very radical.
Yes.
One of the areas obviously being the cockpit here. Can you tell us a little bit about the...
Yeah, there's been a lot of problems in offshore racing. What's happened basically, it's a bit like what happened in motor racing, I think, in the early 1900s, is that the sport became very, very fast, and the safety aspect of the sport didn't keep up with it. And I think powerboat racing has probably suffered a little bit of a similar situation, is that the boats have increased in speed more and more, and unfortunately the safety side of the sport didn't move forward as quickly with it. And I think because of that, a couple of people did end up getting killed, very unfortunately. And now everybody is very much more safety conscious, and this boat is fitted, as you see, with F-16 fighter cockpit canopy, which would deflect any water impact, which is obviously what has injured people before. And I think that the boat itself is an extremely safe boat, and I hope we don't have to find out, and try it, but I'm very confident that it's a very safe boat.
I mean, obviously the sport is still fast. I mean, what sort of speeds will we be doing out here today?
I think probably we'll be touching today 115, 117 miles an hour.
But is it fast enough to keep up with Europe's best? One man who should know is Steve Curtis, who's been campaigning an almost identical catamaran on the European circuit this year.
On the Cowes Torquay, it's a funny race because we go from Cowes to Torquay and back again. We go across Lion Bay, which is a long stretch of water, where the driver's ability comes in, the throttle man's ability, and the boat handling comes into it quite a lot, because it's normally quite rough. And knowing the water's coming back in will help, because there's so many marker buoys in the Solent, knowing exactly where to go will make a hell of a difference if we're in a neck-and-neck situation.
And is the racing likely to be close? What's the sort of competition like?
I would think so. I think that there should be at least 20 Italian boats coming over. So I think it's going to be very close, and they're good boats. I mean, the boats are very close this year. They're all running about the same speed. Some boats are slightly better in the flat, some boats are slightly better in the rough. So it's really on a choice of propellers race day, but there's a lot of strong boats out there running.
And for your boat, preferred sort of smooth weather or rough weather?
I like it as rough as you like. The rougher the better for me, for the boat, because we're both quite young, in the boat, Vincenzo and myself, and that makes a big difference too.
So it's hard charging, is it?
Well, in the Cowes and the Guernsey, we're just going to go hard from the start. We've got to win, or otherwise we've blown the championship.
Right. And I mean, to keep a boat at this sort of level of competition, I mean, what's required? Most it's expensive to start with.
Yeah. Luckily, or fortunately, we're sponsored by Lamborghini, and we're the Lamborghini #1 team. So we get a lot of help from Lamborghini, engine-wise and mechanical-wise. Apart from that, we've got 4 good mechanics who just do the boat works and maintain that all the time. Obviously, we've got the backup from Cougar. So on the maintenance side, we've really got a fabulous team. Which makes a hell of a difference when you're doing long races.
And is it up alongside Formula One in terms of expense of putting a team together and running at this level of competition?
No, I don't think it's quite as big as Formula One, but it's still, I mean, expenses are getting up there. To do a season's racing is close to £1 million, whereas F1 it's £20 million, but then their drivers get an awful lot more money than we do.
And in this particular race, I mean, in Cowes, obviously, you'll be running alongside, well, hopefully not alongside Richard Carr's boat, but Richard, it'll be his first time up against the full European competition. How do you think the other boat in the Cougar stable is going to go?
Well, they're I mean, like I said, the hulls are exactly the same, and they're about the same on speed. Richard's been testing this morning, and his boat's, running well. So I think, they should be close. I mean, Richard's, won the first 2, so he's got a little experience now. I think it should be a good race.
And is there other sort of, I mean, it's all very, very friendly here, but is there any sort of rivalry creeping in, or is it just good-humoured rivalry?
Good-humoured rivalry at the moment. I think closer to the race it could get a bit heavy.
Well, friendly rivalry or not, Richard Carr will be taking his first confrontation with the top Europeans very seriously indeed. Already a lot of serious planning and testing has gone into the team's preparation for this race. The weather predictions look set for a fast race, but perhaps a little local knowledge may give the Carr team the edge. You can see how the team get on at Needles and at Cowes in Watersports World. But for now, we leave you with a selection of some of the boats he'll have to match if he's to take line honours at the end of 190 miles of gruelling, flat-out racing. First we go to Poole on England's south coast and the latest round in the UK Championships, the Needles Trophy. All the main contenders were here to progress their championship hopes. First, we spoke to John Clark about how his season had been going so far.
Not so good. We've had 1 or 2 engine failures, but we've corrected that now. We've moved to dry sump running, which is, we're unique. We're the first in the sport to run dry sumps that we're aware of. We're over that now, and hopefully today, with the weather being so good, we'll have a good run.
And can you tell us a little bit about this boat? Obviously it's ideal for these conditions, apparently, is it?
Yeah. It's a good all-round boat. It runs well in rough water. But today, with the forecast being force 3, hopefully the seas will only be 4 feet, maybe 5 feet maximum. That's on the long leg from Old Harry to the Needles. Yeah, we're very optimistic today.
And what sort of, why is this particular boat ideal for the sort of conditions today? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Length, 40-foot boat. The depth of freeboard is adequate. It's a reasonably heavy boat. We drive it hard. That's it, really.
And what about the sort of power you've got in this boat? What sort of power and what sort of speeds is this boat?
The power now is about 850 horsepower per engine. We're near on 1,700 horsepower. Fuel consumption is about 110, 115 gallons an hour, and the speed is around 115, 118 miles per hour.
And we're going to be seeing that sort of speeds today, do you think?
I don't think it'll be necessary today. I would think you'll see speeds of 110 today, maybe 112.
Now this is all presumably part of your build-up to doing the Cowes Torquay?
And that's right, and that's in another week's time, yeah.
Can you tell us what your sort of, how the sort of build-up's been going, or what sort of plans are for today?
Well, the plans for today are to win and to finish, obviously. If we talk about Cowes, that's a different animal because 230 miles marathon non-stop. And across Lyme Bay, 20 miles off the shore, it can be hellish out there. You can see enormous seas that you would imagine in mid-Atlantic. That is the race to win.
Richard Carr's Cougar Lamborghini team are also here for this race. As well as Class 1 contenders such as Richard Carr, the main Class 2 racers are here as well. Dave Allenby, hoping to overcome the engine problems he's had with his new catamaran. And the Marston Hotels team, with Glyn Evans and Chris Scraggs, will be trusting that their reliability will help them increase their lead in the championships. Providing an interesting test for both of them will be Daniele Scioli, who is current leader of the European Class 2 Championships. Poole is a round of that championships, and if he wins here, he will clinch the title. This is a particularly impressive feat for Daniele, as he lost one arm in a powerboating accident some 18 months ago.
Daniele, can you tell us a little bit about the boat you're racing here today?
Yes, a monohull built in Italy by Fabio Buzzi. Have two diesel engines, 800 horsepower each. It goes quite well in the rough sea, so we are looking for some more wind today.
And this is a very important race for you in the series so far. Can you tell us why?
Yes, because we just come from Norway and Sweden, where we win both. And if we finish this race, we are going to be the European Championship. And after that, we are going to prepare the boat for Trieste, where is the World Championship this year.
Now, is this your first time in Poole, or you've been here before?
I have been here last in 1998 with the catamaran, the same cat that then after in 1919 I have a problem, accident. So that's the reason why I changed boat. It's a pleasure for me really to be here again. I like how here in Poole the organization of the race and the enthusiastic all the people around.
And the accident you have, obviously you've recovered very well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it was in the Rio Paraná. It's a 1,000 kilometers race in Argentina. We take away from the very big vessel, similar accident than Didier Pironi. The boat jumped, and when it fell down, it was totally destroyed, and it affected, I lost my arm there. But fortunately after that, I started to recover quite well, and that's the reason now I am again driving power boats, and I'm feeling with the same enthusiastic like in the very beginning. I remember in 1986 in Guernsey.
So it hasn't put you off?
No.
What do you think about the safety in the sport now?
I think that really if some positive things we can take from the accidents, either the Pironi or Stefano Casiraghi or myself, is to save more life, because these new rules just applied by the UIM of the capsules in the catamaran, the seat belt and the copies are very interesting to take the safe for the pilots. I think it's very good.
So you think safety's improved?
Yes, I think it has improved a lot. The same that has happened with the Formula One in the early 1980, Really, it has been growing so far, the sport, that is necessary now to readapt it to the new speeds of the boats.
Daniele Scioli already sitting at the front of the pack in his distinctive white monohull with that hydrofoil wing on the top. Richard Carr sitting quietly at the top of the picture nearest the shore in the yellow catamaran, about to make his run. And now all the pack start to wind their engines up to full power to begin this race opposite the Bournemouth Pier. And already those three Sea-Tech diesels pushing Daniele Scioli's boat to the front of the pack. But Richard Carr starting to wind on the power in the Big Cat. As they pass Bournemouth Pier, they roar away together, with Dave Allenby in the Class 2 Cat in hot pursuit, followed by the rest of the pack. Jeff Purves in Hospitality Inn, the Marston Hotels Cat, and the Alpina Racing monohull. Also in monohulls, chasing hard, the Hunt and Atlas team and the J&B Whiskey team. And as they head out into deeper water, it's Richard Carr who's already charging to the front with no opposition. In the second start for the 2-litre boats, a more exciting race was to develop between Carry Fast, with Tony Gemby driving, the Trimaran of Neil Holmes, and the other catamaran of R&R Motors. At the front of the field, however, the pattern for the whole race was being set. Richard Carr and Peter Currington, his driver, were already well in the lead. Daniele Scioli, charging behind in second place, looked well on his way to the European title. And the Marston Hotels Cat was chasing hard in third. In the calm conditions, the little catamaran of Jeff Purves, Hospitality Inn, was also going to run well, frustrating the monohull of Stuart Raven, Hunt and Atlas, and the monohull of Alpina Racing Team, as well as the yellow monohull at the back here of John Hampton in the J&B team. They could only hope to gain some advantage over their smaller rivals in the slightly rougher conditions heading out towards the Needles Rocks. Meanwhile, Chris Scragg from Ashford in Kent, with Glyn Evans and Peter Dredge alongside him, were enjoying their run in the Marston Hotels Cat. With Dave Allenby gone with engine trouble, they look to be taking more points to establish their lead in the UK Class 2 Championships. Meanwhile, Daniele Scioli was showing what it takes to be competitive and win in the European Class 2 Championships. With the only possible rival in Class 1, John Clark, not even making the start line due to engine problems, this was another open run for Richard Carr. But an important one. He was determined to test the boat at over 90 miles an hour to make sure it was ready for the Cowes Classic the following week, ready to take on the Italians and ready for that eventual crack at the world title at Trieste in September. Certainly there would be no letting off for Carr, but at the end of the first lap he was well ahead of the pack. With Daniele Scioli coming past in second place and showing at the same time there is unlikely to be any British contenders to challenge him for the Class 2 World Championships, which will be decided in Trieste at the same time. In the 2-litre race, the racing was to prove much more exciting. Tony Gemby and Eric Braithwaite in Carry Fast were being chased hard. First on the tail was the black catamaran double M music of Mark Mumford and John Mumford from Poole. But also still in the chase was the trimaran of Neil Holmes and Jim Cox from South Godson Sports Boats. This was going to be a close tussle for the entire duration of the race. Tony Gemvey had all the experience of being the 1990 UK champion, but this was being matched by the just raw enthusiasm of Mark Mumford. In the main race, the positions were decided well before the finish, and it was only a matter of reliability to get to the finish line in most classes. But in the 2-litre race, nothing was going to be decided until the very last turn. Tony Gemvey and Eric Braithwaite in Carry Fast had finally shaken off Mark Mumford in Double M Music, but now it was Neil Holmes and Jim Cox in their trimaran who were pushing hard to finally steal the honours on the line. It had been one of the tightest 2-litre races anyone had seen for many a year, with all three boats taking the lead, and finally Tony Gemvey just pipping them by a mere 5 seconds. In the end, Daniel Scioli's placing gave him that European Championship title he'd fought so hard for. And for the Cougar Lamborghini team of Richard Carr, it was another successful milestone on the road that will lead to the World Championships in Trieste in Italy at the end of September. You can follow him all the way here on Watersports World.